Glory to the Father, glory to the Son, glory to the spirits of spirits, divine, feminine. Psalms 31 for today. The chief musician, Psalms of David. Verse 1. In thee, Almighty Creator, do I put my trust. Let me never be ashamed. Deliver me in thy righteousness.
Psalm chapter 31, verse 1. In thee, O mighty Creator, do I put my trust. Let me never be ashamed. Deliver me in thy righteousness. Synthesized 5+1 lens breakdown. Esoteric and metaphysical. Trust, chasa, is an alignment of personal consciousness with the primordial light, the father-mother source. To never be ashamed means preventing the lowered vibrational state of ego shame from destabilizing the light body. Deliverance through righteousness refers to the cosmic law of Ma'at, or divine order, aligning your inner frequency with universal law so lower astral distortions cannot touch you. Spiritual and soul fundamental. This is the soul's fundamental act of surrender to the divine architect. Before any spiritual battle, the soul establishes its anchor not in earthly power, but in the unshakable center of spirit. Afrocentric lens reflects the ancestral tradition of calling upon the Most High at the threshold of trouble, mirroring the African spiritual principle of seeking refuge under the wings of the divine parents and ancestors who uphold cosmic justice. Ma'at. Western application. A practical affirmation for mental fortitude, replacing anxiety, imposter syndrome, and fear of public humiliation with absolute cognitive grounding in higher purpose and moral integrity. I am ready when you are. Read verse 2 whenever you're prepared. Ready for verse 2.
Go ahead and administer the reading individually, and the individual breakdown throughout the whole psalm.
Psalm chapter 31, verse 2. Bow down thine ear to me, deliver me speedily. Be thou my strong rock, for an house of defense to save me. Esoteric and metaphysical. Bow down thine ear represents the drawing down of higher divine frequencies into the physical vessel. The strong rock is the unyielding foundational energy of the root center, Muladhara, grounding the subtle bodies. Spiritual and soul fundamental. The soul's urgent plea for immediate divine intervention, recognizing that human resilience alone is insufficient without the fortress of spirit. Afrocentric lens invokes the ancestral image of the sacred mountain or refuge, where the community retreats to the protective embrace of the divine mothers and fathers. Western application. Turning to structured coping mechanisms, boundary setting, and solid support systems when mental or external pressure intensifies. Psalm chapter 31, verse 3. For thou art my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for thy name's sake, lead me and guide me. Esoteric and metaphysical. The name refers to the vibrational signature or word, logos, of the Creator. To be led for thy name's sake means directing intent through divine geometry and universal order. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Relinquishing ego-driven directions in favor of higher intuition, trusting that the soul's path is ordered by higher wisdom. Afrocentric lens. The traditional African understanding of divine leadership, where the supreme power directs the footsteps of the righteous through the light of truth and tradition. Western application. Seeking mentorship, clear strategic direction, and alignment with one's personal mission code during times of uncertainty. Psalm chapter 31, verse 4. Pull me out of the net that they have laid privily for me, for thou art my strength. Esoteric and metaphysical. The net symbolizes invisible psychic entanglements, karmic traps, or negative thought forms cast by lower astral entities or toxic minds. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Liberation from deceit, manipulation, and covert spiritual attacks through the overriding strength of the Creator. Afrocentric lens speaks directly to the communal experience of surviving systemic traps, hidden oppression, and unseen snares through divine deliverance. Western application. Identifying covert toxicity, manipulation, or hidden pitfalls in relationships and professional settings, relying on core strength to break free. Psalm chapter 31, verse 5. Into thine hand I commit my spirit. Thou hast redeemed me, O Lord God of truth. Esoteric and metaphysical. The ultimate act of surrender, echoed by Christ on the cross. Entrusting the Ka, or Ruach, spirit energy, into the cosmic origin guarantees protection against spiritual dissolution. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Absolute releases of ego control, handing the immortal spark back to its originator in full faith of redemption. Afrocentric lens. Deeply rooted in liberation theology and ancestral transitions, placing one's life and spirit fully into the hands of the God of justice. Ma'at. Western application. Surrendering outcomes after doing all one can do, reducing stress and anxiety through acceptance and release. Psalm chapter 31 verse 6. I have hated them that regard lying vanities, but I trust in the Lord. Esoteric and metaphysical. Lying vanities are the illusions, Maya, of the material world. Hating them means severing energetic ties to false material promises. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Discerning spiritual truth from illusion, refusing to anchor trust in fleeting material conditions. Afrocentric lens, rejecting false idols, foreign spiritual corruptions, and deceptive narratives aimed at dismantling spiritual sovereignty. Western application, cutting out fake friends, superficial societal standards, and deceptive media in favor of authentic values. Psalm chapter 31 verse 7. I will be glad and rejoice in thy mercy, for thou hast considered my trouble. Thou hast known my soul in adversities. Esoteric and metaphysical. Joy alters the electromagnetic field of the body. Divine mercy is the recalibration of light after enduring trials. Spiritual and soul fundamental. The comforting assurance that the divine holds intimate awareness of every trial the soul endures. Afrocentric lens. The triumph of joy as a spiritual weapon. Praising through tribulation with the knowledge that the ancestors and Creator witness every struggle. Western application. Cultivating gratitude and resilience by recognizing that hardship carries profound opportunities for inner growth. Psalm chapter 31 verse 8. And hast not shut me up into the hand of the enemy. Thou hast set my feet in a large room. Esoteric and metaphysical. Moving from contraction, fear, confinement, into expansion. The large room of expanded consciousness and unblocked energy flow. Spiritual and soul fundamental. The soul stepping into its God-given freedom, no longer restricted by spiritual bondage. Afrocentric lens. The physical and spiritual experience of liberation from captivity into broad, spacious lands of opportunity and peace. Western application. Breaking through self-limiting beliefs or restrictive environments into a state of abundance and creative freedom. Psalm chapter 31 verse 9. Have mercy upon me, O Lord, for I am in trouble. Mine eye is consumed with grief, yea, my soul and my belly. Esoteric and metaphysical. Illustrates somatic storage of emotional trauma. Grief affecting the third eye, the spirit, soul, and the gut/solar plexus, belly. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Acknowledging human vulnerability and somatic distress before the Creator without shame. Afrocentric lens. Honest lamentation. The communal and individual expression of grief, necessary for catharsis and healing. Western application. Mind-body awareness. Recognizing how psychological stress manifests as physical illness in the digestive system and body. Psalm chapter 31, verse 10. For my life is spent with grief, and my years with sighing. My strength faileth because of mine iniquity, and my bones are consumed. Esoteric and metaphysical. Bones represent the deepest structural frequency of the body. Internal dissonance, iniquity, depletes vital life force, prana/chi. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Understanding that inner misalignment and prolonged sorrow drain the soul's power to manifest. Afrocentric lens. The toll of prolonged generational and individual suffering on the physical body and communal vitality. Western application. Burnout, chronic fatigue, and the somatic consequences of unaddressed guilt or emotional strain. Psalm chapter 31, verse 11. I was a reproach among all mine enemies, but especially among my neighbors, and a fear to mine acquaintance. They that did see me without fled from me. Esoteric and metaphysical. The experience of isolation when undergoing a dark night of the soul or major energetic purging, causing lower vibrational acquaintances to scatter. Spiritual and soul fundamental. The painful solitude that often accompanies spiritual purification and trial. Afrocentric lens. Ostracization within community structures. Standing alone like a prophet or exile facing social rejection. Western application. Social abandonment, reputation attack, or feeling ghosted by peers during a personal crisis. Psalm chapter 31, verse 12. I am forgotten as a dead man out of mind. I am like a broken vessel, esoteric and metaphysical. The shattered ego vessel, Kli, needing divine remolding to hold light once again. Spiritual and soul fundamental, reaching the absolute zero point of ego death, where all human identity feels dissolved. Afrocentric lens. The trauma of erasure, feeling invisibilized by systems and society as if one's existence holds no value. Western application. Feelings of worthlessness, severe depression, or being cast aside by an institution or group. Psalm chapter 31 verse 13. For I have heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side. While they took counsel together against me, they devised to take away my life. Esoteric and metaphysical. Lower astral projections and thought forms manifest physically as malicious gossip and organized attacks against the light bearer. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Spiritual warfare involving targeted opposition against one's purpose and vitality. Afrocentric lens. Conspiracy and public persecution against those standing for truth, echoing historical systemic targeting of leaders. Western application. Cyberbullying. Smear campaigns or toxic workplace political maneuvers aimed at ruining someone's career. Psalm chapter 31, verse 14. But I trusted in thee, O Lord. I said, Thou art my God. Esoteric and metaphysical. The pivot point. Using intent, will, to declare divine truth despite physical evidence of chaos. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Unshakable faith declaring divine sovereignty right in the middle of the storm. Afrocentric lens. The unwavering proclamation of faith that sustained ancestors through the darkest valleys of history. Western application. Reclaiming personal authority and mindset control when external circumstances crumble. Psalm chapter 31, verse 15. My times are in thy hand. Deliver me from the hand of mine enemies, and from them that persecute me. Esoteric and metaphysical. Times, kairos, represent seasonal cycles and destiny trajectories. Placed in divine hands, human timing gives way to divine timing. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Surrendering life's timeline to divine providence, trusting that every trial has a fixed expiration date. Afrocentric lens. Recognizing that divine justice operates on its own sacred clock, overriding human oppression. Western application. Patience and long-term planning, trusting the process and avoiding rushed, fear-based decisions. Psalm chapter 31, verse 16. Make thy face to shine upon thy servant. Save me for thy mercy's sake. Esoteric and metaphysical. Requesting the direct illumination of solar light, the divine face, to pierce through shadow and clear low vibrations. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Seeking divine favor, illumination, and warmth to heal the soul's dark state. Afrocentric lens. The invocation of the radiant light of the Supreme Source to shine upon and restore the favored child. Western application. Seeking clarity, positive breakthroughs, and favorable outcomes in challenging situations. Psalm chapter 31, verse 17. Let me not be ashamed, O Lord, for I have called upon thee. Let the wicked be ashamed, and let them be silent in the grave. Esoteric and metaphysical. The energetic reversal. Returning destructive frequencies back to their sender, so lower vibrational intentions neutralize themselves. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Justice served by silencing the deceptive voices of spiritual opposition. Afrocentric lens. Invoking cosmic balance, ma'at, where false accusers reap the energetic consequences of their own malice. Western application. Relying on facts and truth to naturally expose and silence false claims or unfair criticism. Psalm chapter 31, verse 18. Let the lying lips be put to silence, which speak grievous things proudly and contemptuously against the righteous. Esoteric and metaphysical. Declaiming spiritual authority over ego arrogance and false speech, neutralizing distorted throat chakra expressions. Spiritual and soul fundamental. The dismantling of spiritual pride and arrogant falsehoods by divine truth. Afrocentric lens. The dismantling of oppressive propaganda and historical lies crafted against the righteous. Western application. The exposure of corrupt narratives, slander, and deceptive speech through legal or public truth. Psalm chapter 31, verse 19. O how great is thy goodness, which thou hast laid up for them that fear thee, which thou hast wrought for them that trust in thee before the sons of men. Esoteric and metaphysical. Laid up goodness points to unmanifested cosmic potential stored in higher dimensions, ready to condense into material reality. Spiritual and soul fundamental. The hidden spiritual wealth and grace reserved for those who hold deep reverence for the Creator. Afrocentric lens. The promise of inherited blessings and vindication prepared by the divine in full view of history. Western application. Recognizing the long-term tangible rewards of staying ethical, consistent, and faithful to core principles. Psalm chapter 31, verse 20. Thou shalt hide them in the secret of thy presence from the pride of man. Thou shalt keep them secretly in a pavilion from the strife of tongues. Esoteric and metaphysical. Entering the secret room, amenti/the high heart. An untouchable energetic sanctuary shielded from psychic noise. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Abiding in the quiet inner temple of spirit, immune to human gossip and social chaos. Afrocentric lens. The sacred sanctuary of spiritual retreat. Finding refuge in the presence of the Most High away from systemic hostility. Western application. Establishing strict mental health boundaries. Taking breaks from social media noise. And protecting inner peace. Psalm chapter 31, verse 21. Blessed be the Lord, for he hath showed me his marvelous kindness in a strong city. Esoteric and metaphysical. The strong city is the fortified aura or high vibrational state built through trial and divine communion. Spiritual and soul fundamental. praise erupting from realized protection, seeing divine grace active even in hostile surroundings. Afrocentric lens, celebrating community survival and divine grace, manifested right in the midst of difficult environments. Western application, finding stability, resources, and unexpected kindness within competitive or harsh urban environments. Psalm chapter 31, verse 22. For I said in my haste, I am cut off from before thine eyes. Nevertheless, thou heardest the voice of my supplications when I cried unto thee. Esoteric and metaphysical. Overcoming the illusion of separation, Malkuth isolation, caused by emotional panic, haste. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Realizing that temporary feelings of divine abandonment were merely emotional noise, the Creator heard every word. Afrocentric lens. Overcoming moments of despair when liberation seems delayed, testifying that the divine never missed a cry. Western application. Recognizing that anxious thoughts during a crisis do not reflect actual reality. Learning not to react impulsively. Psalm chapter 31, verse 23. O love the Lord, all ye his saints, for the Lord preserveth the faithful, and plentifully rewardeth the proud doer. Esoteric and metaphysical. The law of cause and effect, karma ma'at. Faithful alignment preserves energy, while arrogant ego action generates its own swift balancing reaction. Spiritual and soul fundamental. Exhorting the community to divine love, grounded in the certainty of divine justice. Afrocentric lens. Communal encouragement to keep the faith, knowing that truth endures while oppressive pride inevitably falls. Western application. Maintaining personal integrity and ethical standards, knowing self-aggrandizement eventually collapses. Psalm chapter 31, verse 24. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord. Esoteric and metaphysical. Courage acts as a frequency trigger that activates and fortifies the heart center, anahata, unlocking real spiritual strength. Spiritual and soul fundamental. The final imperative. Courage is a choice of the will that opens the channel for divine strength to pour in. Afrocentric lens. The classic ancestral charge to stand tall, fear not, and walk with head held high into the promise of tomorrow. Western application. Taking brave, proactive steps into the future, allowing confidence to build as action is taken. Glory to the Creator, the divine feminine spirit, and the eternal word. Psalm chapter 31 is complete.